Welcome to Women's Sports Weekly, where Welcome to Women's Sports Weekly, where women's sports happen every day, but we talk about it once a week. I'm Carolyn.
And I'm Danielle. And Scout is with us today, too. Women's Sports Weekly is a podcast where we discuss the latest news, explore interesting stories, and share our love for women's sports. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at WomensSportsWeeklyPod. Follow us and rate us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Send us an email at WomensSportsWeeklyPod@gmail.com, and we may feature your email on our Listeners Experience Zone, The Les.
Scouty, any thoughts for today? Okay, just an ear to the microphone. No comments. Okay.
You want to tell our listeners about your yoga weekend?
This weekend, I did a lot of yoga. I did a training at the studio I teach at. And for yoga teachers, you have to do your initial 200-hour yoga teacher training, which I did back in 2015. And that just allows you to teach yoga. And then there's advanced trainings after that. And then it's common for teachers to do a 300-hour on top of their 200-hour at some point to learn more, and it just allows you to go deeper. So I did that, I think, back in 2021. Now I just try to find things that I'm interested in and teachers that I'm interested to learn from, and Denver has a lot of great yoga teachers. I got to learn with one of my favorite teachers, Steph, and did this deep stretch and meditation training, which I know this is a sports podcast, but I'm going to take a plug and take some time here. I teach power vinyasa classes, but I really loved learning this slower format, this format that allows you to be a little bit more in your body and to relax, which I know for me is especially hard. I think it's a really great way to get into yoga if you've never done it before and are a little bit nervous. And I also think it's a sign of a really strong yoga practice if you're able to slow down and actually be in your body rather than just like moving through the movement. So that's my plug. But I say all of that because that's how it feels for me. Like I am someone who moves. And for me to just slow down and have a weekend in community with people and do that was a really, really nice gift.
Yeah, that's awesome. Before meeting you, didn't really know the first thing about yoga. And then you walked into my life, some yogi gal. But it's funny because you talk about the move. And I've talked about before I played college basketball. Obviously, over the summers, we'd have to follow strength programs and get in shape. I used to do P90X with my dad, and we would skip the yoga days. We were just like, this is a waste of time. Like, why would we even bother? And my mobility is so bad. I'm not saying it's because I skipped yoga back then, but it's like, that's what I need more of. And obviously now I do a lot more yoga, going to your classes and other classes. But as athletes, it's so important. And I feel like that stuff gets overlooked so much. I think now, I hope college athletes realize the importance of things. I feel like we didn't have access to as much information in college, which seems silly, but I just feel like things have advanced so much even since then between, even nutrition and mobility, things like that. But yoga is definitely a great practice to get involved in.
We mentioned this a little bit last week, but just taking time to do something in a different way. I struggled with this for so long as an athlete, and I still struggle with it. For me, everything has to have a purpose. If I do something, especially a physical activity, it's like, how many calories did I burn? Or what was the distance that I went? And I'm really trying to break that because I do physical activity and I do go to the gym and I take care of myself in those ways. And why can I not take some time and slow down and know that that's just as beneficial, although the calories on my watch might not be through the roof or the time spent might not be so long? Like, why can't I just take a little bit of time to slow down and realize as much as moving and action is important, that slowing down and being mindful is also important. And I still need to learn that over and over again.
I think we're both pretty similar in that way, but it's nice that you were able to do that. I'm excited to take some deep stretch and meditation classes now by you.
Yeah. But when I was at yoga training all weekend, you were a cooking, baking machine. So can you tell the listeners about your new inspiration?
Well, first I'd like to share that I was also an electrician and a plumber this weekend.
I told Danielle this past weekend, I was like, I want to make enough money where you can be at home. Only if you want to, of course, but you are so good, one, at house projects, just getting stuff done, taking initiative. And 2, you've been getting really into the cooking and now the baking. And I'm just like, I just want to feed that. And I wish I could make more money so you could do those things.
That's why we have the weekends.
Yes.
But we've had a leaky tub for over a year now, probably even longer than that. We have a very old house, and I assumed you'd have to saw into the tile to fix this. But if you all have something going on in your house, just look up YouTube because there's literally videos for everything. So I was able to fix our leaky tub, and that's one of the easiest house projects I've ever done. I'm like, wow, I wish I did this so much longer ago. I could have saved us so much water and annoyance.
And you said you were like, I'm done. And I was like, that was 15 minutes. How was that not 3 hours?
And then Saturday, when you were at yoga training, I replaced our front porch lamp because
it was
the
nasty.
other one was just like falling apart, hanging off the wall. Ew. I didn't even tell you, there was so much gook behind it when I took it down. A bee was stuck in there. It was so weird. But of course, that's a project that took way longer than it should have because, again, old house, we don't have a regular junction box back there. And then trying to put new holes into our brick wall was not fun. I got it on the first time pretty quickly, but it was too far off the wall and I'm a perfectionist and couldn't have it that way. Probably took me 2 hours to finally get it snug to the wall, but I was determined. We had our groceries delivered, and this man who was bringing our groceries up to the front porch, he looks at me as I'm like holding the light with my chest, trying to keep the wires together. And he goes, "Are you an electrician?" I was like, "Nope." And he like had terror on his face. And I was like, the electricity's off in the house. But then he didn't speak much English after that. So I think he was worried for me, but got it done.
He checked on you. He checked to make sure the wires were going the right way.
I know he showed me his card because I think he was scared he was going to scare me as he got closer. And I think he might have done some electrical work, but he was just making sure I was like not gonna electrocute myself or burn our house down. And then Sunday we've been watching a lot of Great British Bake Off. I've been inspired to do some baking, and I attempted to make some fruit tarts. The dough, I was really struggling making the pie crust, and I'm not really impressed with my first go. This will not stop me though. I'm excited to keep trying and figure out the right recipe to do this again.
I am so happy I get to benefit from this. I also have been trying to get Danielle to watch Great British Bake Off for years because it's what I like to watch when I'm anxious or happy or any feeling. It just is such a great show and so wholesome. I had to create a fantasy league for Danielle to join and watch Great British Bake Off, but here we are, and you're actually doing pretty well in our fantasy league. I'm just so happy you're watching and so happy I get to benefit. I thought the fruit tart was great.
Thank you.
I like anything you make.
But the crust was too thick.
I did say the crust
a lot
was
of practice to do.
Yes, the crust was a little thick, but I was trying to give my Great British Bake Off feedback in a way that was like direct, but real kind, and it still tastes delicious. So
thanks. I might go back and watch previous seasons if you want to rewatch anything.
Yes. Oh my gosh, there's some seasons. Oh, there's just so many good characters
now I gotta
on that
learn.
show.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm really into baking now, and it's a good time with the holidays coming up.
It is.
I made mini tarts, but I think I need to buy a big pie thing too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have some pies in my future. I'm going to perfect this pie crust.
I will be there every step of the way to tell you how great it is and tiny improvements.
Yeah. It's like you said one day, we get into our hobbies, and I feel like this is going to be a new hobby of mine, and hopefully I could stick with it.
I'm worried because we're going to go back to the East Coast for the holidays this year, and I'm worried that my mom is very good at putting people to work, and you've been doing way too many things well that I think she's going to put you to work in her house a lot. You might be baking everything for her and fixing everything in the house.
My parents put me to work when I go back to their house. It's all good. Happy to help.
Should we talk about some sports?
We probably should. So why don't we get into the highlight reel for this week?
The Women's Pro Baseball League unveiled their first 4 teams. They are city-based in LA, San Francisco, Boston, and New York.
I have mixed feelings because I'm not a huge baseball fan. I love softball, and we grew up watching the Yankees. Coming from New Jersey, my dad was a huge fan. Your dad was a huge fan. And I love that women play baseball and they're into it and they're creating this league. I guess I just have to get into it and give it a chance because I'm like, why not just play softball? Like, softball is such a great sport. But what are your thoughts on it?
I think they are 2 very different sports.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the distinction. It's not like there's a women's version of baseball, that's softball. It's like softball is its own sport and baseball is its own sport. So to provide women the opportunity to play baseball, I think is great. And we've had a successful women's baseball league in the past. And we'll talk about that.
Love that movie.
Yes. So that's my feeling.
Yeah. Again, I'm not against it. I just think it's interesting, but yeah, curious to see how it plays out.
Danielle hates women's baseball. That's the headline.
No, it's baseball in general. I just find a little slow, but
yes,
I'll probably be more interested just because women are playing. So
that's right. For these teams, San Francisco is staying with the purple theme. They're not the exact same color as the Valkyries, but they will be purple.
So the Rockies.
Close to the Rockies.
Hopefully they're better than the Rockies.
Yeah. Jeez. I think anybody's better than
Sure.
the Rockies. Boston is staying with the green theme that the Boston Legacy have, and the Fleet, Boston Legacy is NWSL, and the Fleet are PWHL. New York, I love, is staying with the teal. I think New York has done such a good job of branding their women's sports, like Gotham, Liberty, and the Sirens. And then LA is doing a deeper blue.
So they don't want to go to the purple yellow like the Sparks.
No. And I'm like, maybe the Clippers or I don't know. This first year, though, they won't be playing in those cities. They won't be like city based. They're going to do a tour like Athletes Unlimited Softball League did. Yeah.
I hope they come to Denver.
Would be nice.
Because we have a shit baseball team, so we need to see some good baseball.
For reference, the Rockies are so horrible in Denver, and the Savannah Bananas came to Denver, and they sold out Rockies Stadium.
I'm sure.
And you can go to a Rockies game for $9.
Not even sometimes.
Yeah. You could pretty much just walk in. The bar at that field is great. Coors Field, right?
I've heard people go up there, go to the games just to hang out at the bar.
Yeah.
I've heard it's like the best bar in Denver. I don't know.
$9 cover. Get to watch some bad baseball.
I mean, it's a great stadium. It really is.
It's
Beautiful views up there. You could see the mountains when the sun's setting. I can see why people want to go just for the bar up there. It's pretty cool.
For sure. Come play in Denver. So next up for the Women's Pro Baseball League is the draft, which will be held in November, where each team will develop their 15-player rosters. Let's get into this pay structure a little bit. So players will be paid per game at a rate determined by their selection order in the draft. We don't love when people get paid per game. However, this season is 7 weeks in total. So just something to keep in mind. It is a short season, but let's get into this a little bit more. So the last time there was a women's professional baseball league was in 1954 when the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League folded. This league was famous for inspiring A League of Their Own, both the movie and the TV show A League of Their Own. The movie is one of my favorite movies of all time.
The best. There's no crying in baseball.
And then I want to sing, we're the members of the All-American League. We come from cities near and far. We got Canadians, Irish ones, and Swedes. We're all for one, well, we're on for all. We're all American.
Nice.
Do you like that? Oh my God. I might cut that out. Okay. So I don't know if they'll be singing songs anymore,
Yeah.
but
You can go. You can say, I'll be media and I'll sing for you.
yeah, let me sing. That should be their 7th inning stretch
Oh
song.
my gosh. It should be actually.
But they only play 7 innings. Okay, let's get into the details a little bit more. Inaugural season will be 7 weeks total, 4 weeks of regular season play, 1 week of all-star competition, 2 weeks of playoffs. Games will be played Thursday to Sunday, with each team playing 2 games per week. The league will begin in May of 2026. There will be a 4-day training period prior to the regular season.
Wait, 4 week?
4-day.
Day.
With
4-day training.
Yep. That's all you get. 4 days of training with
Cool.
your team, and players are expected to get into regular season shape on their own. I don't love when we create professional leagues and we don't treat the players like professionals.
4 days? That's absurd.
It is absurd.
Just thinking about the training real quick. Are there amateur leagues that these women are playing in, or like where are they coming from?
I do think, because there are international players, so I do think internationally there are opportunities. There's also a USA baseball team. Limited opportunities.
Okay.
They will play 7 innings, like I mentioned. They'll play with aluminum bats, so not wood like men's. And as I mentioned, the games won't take place at the home fields because those aren't even established. On top of that, we have 4 of the most expensive cities probably close to in the world, and we're asking people to get paid per game to play there. I don't know. Again, the structure here, I'm a little hesitant about. So the season will take place at 1 or 2 venues for the inaugural season. The location is still to be announced for those 2 venues. Housing will be provided to players, and they will receive extra payment for participating in clinics or any media days. So on top of getting paid per game, they'll get paid for anything they do outside of those games. Let's talk a little bit more about the salary cap. So the salary cap for the first season for the entire team is $95,000. That's
like
not
each player on the team?
No.
The whole team?
The whole team.
So they have to split up $95,000 among all the players.
Yes.
And that's a cap.
That's a cap. And once again, I'm going to say, how do we expect to have a professional league if we're not treating the players like professionals?
Wow.
I will mention that players will receive a portion of the revenue share from league sponsorship for this season. But I do want to just point out an overall bigger issue that I not only see in women's sports, but I see professionally as well, is that women are never paid based on their potential and men always are. Men receive jobs based on their potential and they receive money based on their potential in sports, but women have to prove first and then they can get paid. And even then it's not going to be as much as the men. And that happens across everything.
Yeah.
And it's just really frustrating to me because we see the growth and we see the potential for women's sports if people put their money where their mouth is and invest. And it's just so frustrating. I don't know. It's just frustrating to me. And I hope, as women always do, that they prove investors wrong and show that people are going to be interested in this. So I don't know. All that to say, I'm rooting for the WPBL. But if the infrastructure is not there, there's no way that this league can be successful in the long run.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, let's switch gears and talk about a different sport.
Yeah, let's talk about the U.S. women's national team friendlies games. They had games pretty much back to back, Thursday and Sunday this past week, and they split with Portugal 1-1.
Yes, so last Thursday, the U.S. women's national team actually lost to Portugal 2-1. Let's talk about this game real quick. Rose Lavelle scored in the opening minute. And then she almost scored again very shortly after. However, Portugal came back and scored an equalizer just before halftime from a corner kick when Diana Gomez was left unmarked at the back post and headed it past U.S. keeper Fallon Joyce. This was the first goal that Portugal has ever scored against the U.S. women's national team.
Wow, that's crazy.
I also just need to take a moment for Fallon Joyce. We've talked about her before. I really like her as a goalkeeper. She was not the goalkeeper for the second game versus Portugal. Do I know much about what makes a good goalkeeper? No. Do I know that Fallon Joyce makes really good scuba diving videos where she talks about the fish she sees? Yes.
Wow, I'm glad that's what you're concerned about.
And I love anyone with a side passion.
Yep.
And so that's really all I wanted to say about her. In the second half, so it was tied 1-1. The U.S. women's national team put on some pressure, but Portugal scored again. And this was a deflected shot. It was an own goal from the U.S. And then that's how the game ended, 2-1. There was some shock after.
Yes.
Whenever the U.S. women's national team loses, everyone's like, what's wrong?
Yeah.
Throw it all away.
Yeah, but
everyone sucks.
What I like about Emma Hayes is she really does take these friendlies and switch up the roster, and she's really trying to see what puzzle is going to work moving forward. So like I look at these losses as kind of a success point. Just because they lose doesn't mean that lineup isn't right. But she's seeing how people gel, how people work together, and I think it makes the players uncomfortable. So I like it.
Going into the second game where the U.S. won 3-1, I also like that they played Portugal twice. And I like that they lost the first game. I would prefer that they didn't. But when you're playing a team twice, you can take what you learned and implement it immediately. So I appreciated that. They switched up the lineup a lot. I think they made 8 changes from game 1 to game 2 against Portugal. They ended up winning 3-1. But it was a very young lineup. Emily Sonnet, veteran defender for the U.S. women's national team. She entered the match with 110 international appearances, while her 10 other teammates on the field had 100 caps total.
Wow.
So a very young, inexperienced lineup for this second match. 18-year-old Lily Johannes started, 19-year-old Claire Hutton, 19-year-old Jordan Bugg, and then two 20-year-olds, Olivia Moultrie and Jaden Shaw.
Yes.
We saw Olivia Moultrie, very Roosevelt-like, find a goal 45 seconds in to this match against Portugal.
You know what's crazy? Scoring within the first minute of a soccer game is unbelievable to me because soccer goals don't come very easily. And this was the fourth first-minute goal of the year for the U.S. women's national team and the 21st in program history. So when you think about program history, 21 and then 4 in this past year, I wonder if Emma Hayes has an attack strategy that hasn't been in place before where they're just like, what are they doing that's getting these goals so quick? It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's like an out of bounds play in basketball. You know that one out of bounds play that always worked? I feel like they might have something. I can't tell what it is because I'm not a soccer expert, but like they must have something going on where it's like, we're going to find a way.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Portugal responded right back in the 5th minute on a Jessica Silva header, but then Olivia Moultrie scored again in the 10th minute to make it 2-1.
Okay, I'm not going to lie here. I was deep in my baking.
You were tarting.
And I ran into the living room because I was like, oh my God, it's already whatever time.
10 minutes into the game.
And I see the score and I'm like, oh, this is just showing highlights from the last game because I really could not believe that it was already 2-1 with less than 10 minutes. And then I realized it was this game. I was like, are you kidding me? I was so pissed.
Can't even make a tart without missing 3 goals.
Crazy.
We spoke about Olivia Moultrie back in episode 67 of Women's Sports Weekly. I just want to remind people that she turned pro at 13 years old. She is now so old. She is 20.
Wow, so old.
And I also just want to mention that Lily Johannes was instrumental to both of Olivia Moultrie's goals. She played the ball into the box on the first goal. Olivia Moultrie shot it and then got her own rebound and shot it again. And then for the second goal, Lily Johannes played this great ball to Jaden Shaw. Jaden Shaw backheeled it to Olivia Moultrie. Olivia Moultrie scored again. I just love Lily Johannes in the midfield. I think it's so amazing that she's getting more experience. And I think when we get into real games, not friendlies, it's going to be Lily Johannes somewhere in the midfield. Then in the 77th minute, Sam Coffey came in as a substitute and scored in the 82nd minute. It was a sick goal. She was really excited.
Yeah.
And it was a really good day for Portland Thorns fans who saw 2 of their players score all the U.S. goals. So both Olivia Moultrie and Sam Coffey play for the Portland Thorns.
I love that. One thing I noticed about Portugal, it's interesting that they played back-to-back again, but on Sunday especially, they're a very physical team. They were yanking at the jerseys.
Yeah.
I forget whose jersey they had, but they were holding on for so long and the refs just weren't calling it. And the announcers were talking about because they did it in slow-mo. And I'm like, wow, they're a physical team. So I'm really happy that the U.S. were able to bounce back and win that second one.
I think they showed a tactic to use against the U.S., which is be physical and delay the game.
Yeah.
And try to break it up and not let the U.S. get their momentum. And so I bet other teams are like, okay, that's some of the things that we're going to have to do. Let's get into some updates from Women's Sports Weekly.
Yes. First update is we have Run Club this Thursday and every Thursday at 6 p.m. Mountain Time at the 99ers Sports Bar here in Denver. If you listen to our podcast and share the secret word with the bartenders after our run, we run 3 miles, you will get 50% off your first draft. This week, the secret word is Halloween. Halloween is this Friday, so on Thursday at Run Club, we are wearing our costumes to run. It's going to be fun. We did a pumpkin run last week. It was so much fun. Darn it, we don't have our pumpkin up here.
Should I go get it?
Do you want to?
Yeah.
Okay, so our friend Lisa from Run Club made this pumpkin that Carolyn's showing on the camera right now. She created her own stencil and put the Women's Sports Weekly logo on a pumpkin. We just love it so much and can't believe she took the time to do that. We have a lot of fun at our Run Club. If you're in Denver, I hope you come out. If you're nervous about running, don't be. Like, it's a very chill group and we have a lot of fun. And yeah, this week is a fun one. We're going to be dressed up in our costumes. So don't forget, the word is Halloween and we hope to see you there.
Are we going to share what our costume is?
No, people have to come and see it. Maybe next episode we'll share, but they got to come.
Okay. We also want to take this time to ask you to please rate and subscribe to our podcast. We love putting this podcast together. It's the highlight of our week, and we create, produce, and edit the podcast ourselves. If you want to support us, rate, subscribe, give us a positive review, and share with the people you love. I am out of breath from running up and down the stairs to get the pumpkin. Thank you to everyone who has rated the podcast. If you send us a screenshot of your 5-star rating, we will send you a sticker. And this past week, we saw some more reviews coming through. Just really appreciate the feedback you provide for us. Every time you do that, you open the door for more people to find us. So thank you.
Yes. All right. We are going to get into our deep dive for the week. I'm actually surprised I haven't seen more about this topic. I don't know if you have, but I really haven't seen a ton. But we're going to talk about House versus NCAA.
Yeah, and I think the reason why we haven't heard a ton about it is because it's complicated to understand. So with college basketball starting up in November, we wanted to talk about the antitrust settlement of House versus NCAA that will allow schools to pay their players directly. So not just NIL, but also schools paying the players directly.
High level, let's just give an overview of what this even is.
Yeah.
So a federal judge has approved a $2.8 billion antitrust settlement on June 6, 2025, so this past June, that will now change college sports by allowing schools to pay their athletes, as Carolyn just said. And one of the things we should probably talk about is what is an antitrust law?
This is not common speak, and we had to do some research for this. So antitrust laws are collections of federal and state laws that are designed to promote fair competition and prevent monopolies in the marketplace. And then a settlement is an agreement reached between parties in a lawsuit to resolve a case without a trial. And it usually involves money paid. So there's usually a sum of money associated with a settlement. What happened here is that, and we'll get into Grant House, who is the house of this argument, said that the NCAA was pretty much taking advantage of the marketplace and players were not getting fairly compensated for the money that they made while playing NCAA sports.
Yeah. And I would say this argument has been happening forever. I don't know if you've ever seen the documentary. It's a 30 by 30 or 30 for 30, whatever, on ESPN, the Fab Five. It's one of my favorite of all time. These players were at Michigan and they were broke, and they talked about like how much money the NCAA was making off of their names and not getting paid. So this is not a new argument, but I think as we've progressed in time and with social media and all this stuff, it just has gotten bigger and bigger.
I also want to add that this is more than NIL. So like when we think about NIL, we think about sponsorship money. We're going to have to start making that distinction because as a result of this settlement, schools can now pay athletes directly for their name, image, and likeness. But think of this as something separate from NIL. Players can go and make their sponsorship money. They can go get their deals from Gatorade or Church's Chicken or whatever it is, or the car wash down the street. They can receive that money. And then on top of that, there's now going to be a pot of money dedicated from the school to pay the players.
And with that, I would love to talk a little more about who Grant House is and how he became the face of this settlement, because I don't know, I feel like it's interesting. He hasn't been heavily involved, but somehow became the face of this. So he is a former Arizona State swimmer. He ended up suing the NCAA and some of the major athletic conferences, including the ACC, the Big Ten, the Big 12, the Pac-12,
RIP,
and the SEC. And again, he was challenging rules that barred schools from paying athletes directly. Back in spring 2020, it was during COVID, he was still training, and he gets a call from his teammate's mother, who happened to be an attorney, and she was preparing a class action lawsuit against the NCAA. Now, Grant was known for being a leader on his team. He was known for advocating for athletes to begin with, so I guess he fit this mold of what this woman was looking for. They needed and were looking for student athletes to serve as plaintiffs to challenge the NCAA on this for the athlete compensation case, and she asked Grant, and pretty much almost immediately he agreed to be a part of this. He saw it as a chance to stand up for college athletes who weren't allowed to profit from NIL, as you mentioned, their name, image, and likeness. And again, he's quote unquote the face of the case, but a lot of times he learns about updates through the media. Like, he's not heavily involved in the decisions that are being made, but his name is what's essentially being dragged through this.
And I wonder if he knew all the implications now, if he would still want to be part of it, but he is staying committed.
He continues to say that he believes he's going to be on the right side of history. And he's received a lot of backlash from teammates on social media. And a lot of people are pretty angry about this.
And we'll talk about why that's the case, because this payment structure from the schools, it looks like it's going to harm less revenue generating sports. So it could be very beneficial for your footballs and your basketballs and men's sports, but it could be more detrimental to your smaller sports that are still very important. And I want to get into that a little bit as well, but are not like what people are buying tickets to see.
Yeah. Continuing on about what this lawsuit is and what it means. So after it passed, the NCAA can now pay players directly through licensing deals with NCAA and conferences. About $2.8 billion will go to athletes from 2016 to 2024. So now they're looking backwards at athletes who could have received payment in years past, and they're going to pay some of them out.
I know, and what that's going to look like and how much they're going to get. But if you played in the NCAA between 2016 and 2024, you may be entitled to compensation from your school.
Yeah, I wonder how that's going to work with the amount of athletes that they're going to have to split that among. It's kind of interesting how that will work out.
Yes. So the settlement is one piece. That $2.8 billion is one piece for athletes between 2016 to 2024. And then there's a separate now pot of money for athletes moving forward.
Now in this first year of it passing, each school can share up to $20.5 million with their athletes.
Although this is a settlement with NCAA, they have these agreements with the schools. It's, again, this is confusing. NCAA is not directly paying the players, but they have this agreement with the school, creating these pots of money, and then the school is going to directly pay the player.
And interestingly enough, it's not just going to impact the student athletes, it's actually going to impact non-student athletes as well, because some schools are going to increase the cost to fans through things like talent fees. The concession prices are going to increase, and then athletic fees added to tuition costs.
So you might be a regular schmegular. We would call them NARPs, non-athletic regular person.
Yep.
And you'll pay your tuition and have an athletic fee as part of your tuition to pay your
fellow student athletes,
to pay the person who's doing nothing in your group project because they're always away on trips for their sport.
Yeah, rough.
Are there rules on who can do what and how each conference and each school chooses to pay their athletes? What's in place here?
I mentioned earlier that as part of the lawsuit, basically some of the conferences were sued. But now you have the Power 5 conferences. They are setting up a new enforcement body that will essentially replace the NCAA's role in policing, recruiting, and compliance issues. So they're going to take over this piece. They're calling themselves the College Sports Commission, and this commission will now oversee the NIL activity, review any third-party deals worth $600 or more to make sure athletes are being paid fairly and on market-based rates.
This is interesting to me. So I never fully trust that conferences can monitor and regulate and police themselves. Like, oh, great, you're setting up something to look at yourself. That's why people hire outside auditors. That's why people do things like that, because I just think it creates an environment for a lot of shady things to happen. Yes, maybe they're monitoring NIL sponsorship deals, but what are they doing to look at themselves and make sure that this money is getting provided in an equitable way to the student athletes?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. I'm not really sure what that looks like. It will be interesting, and I'm sure there's going to be some growing pains. For now, they're saying the goal with the new system is to be faster and more transparent. So we'll see if that's for real, and more efficient than the NCAA has been in the past. So curious to see how that plays out. The system will continue to reward the large conferences. So schools are currently capped around 20 million a year, but some schools won't get close to that number.
This is where I'm like, okay, it just gets so complicated because should we be paying players? Yes. Do you have to do it in a way that is highly regulated? Also, yes. So the schools that make $20 million in revenue, which is not every Division I school, they can pay their players up to $20 million. But the schools that are smaller D1s who don't make $20 million are going to have a smaller pot then to provide to their players. So think about this. I'm going to use George Mason, which is a smaller Division I school where my sister went, and then let's use South Carolina. And let's talk women's basketball, assuming that it goes to women's sports, which we'll talk about. South Carolina definitely makes it more than $20 million in what they have. So they'll have that $20 million pot to provide. George Mason will be lucky if they make $20 million. You're trying to recruit a player. Dawn Staley, say the player's from Virginia. She's thinking about staying in her home state, but Dawn Staley wants her. And she says, not only can we pay you X amount of money out of our $20 million, you're going to be wearing Nike. And if you do X, Y, and Z, you're going to have a shoe with Nike. And on top of that, we already have this NIL money. And on top of that, we already have booster money. That paycheck is getting very big. And then for someone at George Mason, it's like, we've got $20 to provide. And our NIL deals, our sponsorship deals are with the car wash down the street. And please come to our school. Do you see how that makes the disparity larger between these big schools and smaller schools?
Yes, but I do have a counter argument.
Okay, please.
Because if Dawn Staley is coming to someone, the person is not going to George Mason to begin with. Just saying. And Dawn Staley is not recruiting people who do end up there. So yes, there's a disparity, but I think that is a tough way of
maybe that's a bad example, but maybe it's like a George Mason and then a bigger D1, but not a South Carolina.
I get your point. I'm just saying, yes. I just think those athletes are naturally going to get paid more anyways if they're going to a bigger school.
I hear you. Let's talk about some of these other things. Again, in the research, it's hard to understand, but this new setup is also going to impose roster limits, which limits opportunities for walk-ons and shrinks large teams like track and field. So my understanding is that roster sizes are going to lessen, which is really hard for sports like track and field and swimming. And let's be very honest that most people do not go pro in their college sport. And there are a lot of NCAA athletes, but we do know that participating, especially in college sports, can have a huge impact on your future as it relates to your leadership skills, as it relates to like the job that you get in the future. That's not even related in sports. Playing college sports can prepare leaders for the future. And I think it's very interesting that we're only talking about sports that make money when college sports is so much bigger than that. And I feel like some people are going to be like, well, that doesn't matter, but it very much does matter. I don't know. I don't want to lose the track and field team. I don't want to lose the swimming team. I don't want to lose the wrestling team just because they have to meet certain requirements and say that they're not as important because they don't make money, when the importance of college sports is the opportunity for people to play. And on top of that, people don't really choose what they're going to be interested in based on money. If you just happen to be a good wrestler, you happen to be a good wrestler. If you happen to be a good softball player, you happen to be a good softball player. And little kids aren't thinking about how much money they can make in the long run. And so to be in one of those sports and be like, well, now our roster size is smaller and now I can't just walk onto the team, or now I don't get paid a lot because my sport happens not to make a lot of money, is just, it doesn't feel right.
Yeah, and that's why Grant House is getting a lot of backlash. Like, I feel like it would have made more sense if a football player was the face of this, because they're not going to have to worry about the money, but a swimmer is. So, yeah, there's a lot of considerations here. But what I really want to talk about is, how is this going to impact women's sports? And you know what? We don't have an answer, but we can give you some scenarios, because we really don't know how this is going to play out. But the good thing is, Title IX is still in place. We've talked about Title IX before. And Title IX, just as a reminder, it's a federal law that requires gender equity in education, and that includes athletics. It's the reason women's and men's sports have to be treated equally in areas like funding, facilities, and opportunities. We did have an episode way back when about this. Schools find loopholes as it is.
And it's not well regulated. And I'm sorry, but our Department of Education is actively dissolving at the moment. And who is checking to make sure that these Title IX
That's why we don't have an answer for how this is going to play out, because
Exactly.
people find loopholes as it is, and now we're dealing with money.
And it's not even a loophole. It's so horribly regulated. It's just so horribly regulated that schools can just do whatever they want.
Yeah. So there's a few ways this could play out for women's athletes.
I have a question though. As a part of Title IX, are they required to pay both women and men's athletes in an equitable way, in a way that is fair?
So if universities are the one distributing these new athlete payments, Title IX may legally require them to make sure men and women athletes are being compensated fairly.
So we don't know.
Yeah. But again, there's a challenge to this. So we've already talked about most of the revenue in college sports comes from football and men's basketball. So those athletes are expected to get the biggest shares of the new money. And without clear rules from the Department of Education or the NCAA, this can pose a real risk to women's sports. And as always, they could be left behind.
We're having these governing bodies that are part of the conferences and the leagues to monitor themselves. I just don't see this ending well. I hate to be the doomsday person, but I'm like, this infrastructure in place is not enough.
Yeah, and through our research, we even read that some schools might try to get around Title IX, as we know, entirely by letting booster collectives handle athlete payments.
Yeah, and this is what we see a lot. Like, you can donate to the booster club. That booster club can then say to the athlete, come to this event for 2 hours and we'll pay you an exorbitant amount of money.
Yeah, so it's going to get tricky. It could lead to more lawsuits. I guarantee it will. There's going to be more confusion. There's already a ton of confusion. There's going to be more confusion about what equity means in this new era. There's just so much to consider.
What would happen in a best case scenario for women? Can this be used in a way that could help women's sports?
Yes, we have all seen the growth of women's sports over the past year or two. There is definitely an opportunity here to ride that wave. Schools can choose to invest in their female athletes, which to me would be a smart move. When I say invest, this isn't just comply with the law. You could take this opportunity to really fund and help grow these programs, and it could help build real momentum and revenue for the school if you take it seriously like it should be taken.
And it's a crossroad for the universities of, are they going to choose to set up a model that continues to reward people who are already making money, or are they going to choose a model that provides compensation to players in a fair and equitable way? I don't have a lot of faith, but I am optimistic that there might be some really good models of schools doing it well. And I hope some schools take that initiative and continue to follow Title IX laws, although it's not being enforced.
Yeah. So I think the next few years are definitely going to be crucial. They're going to decide whether college sports build a pay model that reflects progress and equity, or they'll keep repeating the same old inequities that women face all the time. So I hope that we see progress and we see people making the right decisions, but I think we're jaded at this point. So it'll be interesting to see what actually happens.
Yeah, and I think we're going to learn. Like right now, it feels a little bit like the Wild West, and I think we're going to swing in one direction and see the effects of what that looks like, and then might have to swing back towards center a little bit more and create regulation that is actually helpful, unless we're just like, spiraling towards the people who make money just continue to make money and everyone else can just go fuck themselves. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All right.
I'm sorry. It's difficult to understand, and I want good things for this world.
Yeah. Same.
I'm having an existential crisis.
But if you're still confused, I recommend looking into this mess.
And welcome. We're confused too.
Yeah.
There's still a lot to figure out and iron out.
That wraps up our deep dive for this week. Let's talk about what we're looking forward to this week. What do you got for us?
The U.S. women's national team takes on New Zealand today, October 29th at 8 p.m. Eastern time on TNT. I have a feeling it's going to be a new lineup again and a little bit of who's doing well also mixed in there. So I'll be excited to watch. What about you, Dee?
I'm looking forward to NCAA volleyball. There will be a good SEC matchup. Kentucky takes on Texas on Sunday, November 2nd at 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. We talked about Texas quite a bit on our last episode, and at the time of recording, they are still undefeated. They are 18-0, which very cool. Kentucky is on the hunt for a 9th straight SEC championship. And they are also on a 13-game winning streak. So I think this is going to be a really good matchup.
I cannot wait to watch. That is it for this week. We will see you next week on Women's Sports Weekly. In the meantime, watch women's sports and share the podcast with your friends. Rate and subscribe to the pod on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. Thanks for joining us.